Hello, this is Dale Matthews. I'm joined by Mike Jones. And you know, Mike, you can't fight City Hall.
That's what I've heard, yes. Good evening, Dale.
Well, what we intend to do is to show you, we don't want to pay attention to just nothing but Simon here all the time. Come on, get off of it. No, we're going to talk a little bit about some things that have happened with the City Council recently, Grants Pass City Council, and some challenges that have been offered to them and some of the things that they've said in return. And you'll notice here, just by way of background for this first clip, one of the things that's been happening at Grants Pass City Council meetings is that the mayor, Darren Fowler, has gotten a little upset with me, specifically with me, and saying, you're talking about things we can't do anything about. So I'm not really expecting him to do anything anyway. And you're talking about things that are not related to the city. It's never been necessary in the past. But they're extremely sensitive to the fact that Mike and I have been pointing out that they've just been criticizing the citizens all over the place, the 80% of the citizens. Right, Mike?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, it's shocking that these guys are that tone deaf, but I understand why they want, because you're politically educated locally. Not very many people are. Most of the people that come in there are coming in there because there is something that immediately impacts their life, and they're going to be there one time, and you're never going to see them again. Or until the next time. And there's a few people that are fairly politically educated, but I understand why they want to shut that off, because they don't like the criticism.
So one of the things Darren Fowler's been mentioning, the mayor's been mentioning recently, is that you, Dale Matthews, okay, I'm the target of this one. Okay, next time it'll be Mike. You're not talking about city business. But I would point out to you in the first meeting that we're going to see here that the four people that preceded me started off by talking about county business, including Sandy Casanelli. So you'll hear right at the very beginning, she starts off talking about something other than city business, which I can't do. Weird. Go ahead. Take it away, Sandy Casanelli.
Sandy Castanelli, Merlin, Oregon. I also would like to announce that I believe in Merlin, they're going to have, on the 11th, the young Marines are going to have pancake breakfast, I guess it is, for the veterans. So if you're so inclined to celebrate with a veteran, come on out.
Okay, so that was November 4th. The sound isn't perfect, but I think you can hear what she's saying. And so it's okay. Why not? Go ahead, mention something about Merlin. It's county business, not strictly Grants Pass city business. I don't have any problem with it. You, Mike?
Yeah, but no, I don't, because listen, as they're so often and very fond of pointing out, that the city is in the county too. So if it's entirely possible that some people who live in the city might want to go out and have a pancake breakfast with people. They may actually have some kinship with people that live in the county, as much as they'd love for there to be a civil war on that front. I think it's completely legitimate what she just said.
It's a weird clip to start off with, because what's the controversy? There shouldn't be any controversy, but there is, because I will often get up and I'll say, well, here's what's happening to the county. They hate that. They'd rather not talk about the city either, but they definitely don't. I mean, they just don't like it. And what they're trying to do is make absolutely clear that Cheryl Walker and Keith Eck and Simon Hare are totally against having people like me talk. But you've asked us to keep track of them. And so we mention things during their meetings that they're falling down on the job about, okay? Like this thing with the city sales tax. And so it's okay to start off talking about county business. Now they're going to come up with some new rules where that's not going to be allowed. Really? No, you can now only talk about things that we can do something about. How about if we only talk about things you're going to do something about, then no one would say anything. Woohoo, great. Okay, Sandy's got a little bit more from November 4th. Go ahead.
Today, I'd like to first thank the 78% of the city electorate who voted down the sales tax yesterday. Citizens of the county are eternally grateful to you. I'm sure the local merchants are equally relieved that it did not pass. I'm going to do everything I can to support the local businesses, although I don't spend a lot in town. It's nice that people like Rob Pell at Sunshine and the Golden Rule, I guess, really participated in defeating this sales tax.
Well, they're definitely not happy about that. You're getting up at a city council meeting and say their fondest wishes. She's happy that it was defeated. Sorry about that's our video, which looks pretty good. It's their audio. We're doing the best that we can with this stuff. Mike, I don't think they're very happy about people getting up and reminding everybody that they had this bad idea.
Yeah, that's pretty clear. And of course, we played clips of, a lot of the people on the city council objecting to being criticized and their claims that they're doing this for the citizens. And they're actually, we are representing the citizens. We are the voice of the citizens up here, and clearly not the case. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, how is, what Sandy was saying, how is that the controversy now, though? Because we already know that about her position, and we already know that they're opposed to it.
Absolutely. Well, she was leading into this thing, which we talked about just a little bit, but you haven't seen the videotape of people who wanted to get into the voters' pamphlet to say what they thought about the city's fondest wishes here with this city sales tax. Imagine dipping into your own pocket for $350.
Right.
Go ahead.
That's I think different than some of these people who are making a government salary. Maybe $350 isn't that much to them, but I think the point is that these people don't have they don't have any respect for the fact that you cared enough about the future in the city or the county that you did dig into your pocket for $350. They don't care about that.
$350, and these aren't people that are running for office or anything like that. They just want, and many of them, not all of them, but many of them didn't even live in the city. And they're saying, look, this is a really bad idea. We'll put up $350 out of our own pockets. 14 arguments on each side of a single piece of paper. 14 arguments on each side? Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Why am I paying $350? I didn't, because I don't have that kind of money. $350. And then she wants to know, well, wait a minute. This was it was only for city voters to vote on. And when I put up my $350, she's saying, this is really tiny type to get this on one. And I think there was 21 arguments against and 4 of them for. And you might ask, hey, why is this costing me $350? Who's making money off of this? She's going to explain.
Secondly, I'd like to discuss the voters' pamphlet for this election. 22 people turned in arguments at $350 a pop. That's $7,700 that was collected for a voters' pamphlet. Normally we get the 7.5 by 11-inch booklets, but this time our almost $8,000 bought us one piece of paper on 22.5 by 16 inches that was printed on both sides. The problem with this is there was 14 arguments printed on one side that resulted in the print being so small it was almost unreadable. Hardly a prudent value for the money that was spent. I don't know about others, but my argument had a major punctuation error, which I did not appreciate. I've been submitting arguments to the voters' pamphlet, and I've never had them screw up in the past. We spend a lot of time trying to get everything perfect, and then to have it printed not like we submitted it is not appropriate. My question today is, who made the decision to have this voter pamphlet printed up on one page? Was it the council, the city manager, or possibly our clerk, Art Harvey? I suggest that you refund an appropriate portion of the argument filing fee to all 22 people who submitted one. This is hardly worth the money we gave you. I will leave this request for the record this evening with my email and mailing address for a response. Thank you very much.
You know what? A couple of interesting things jump out at me about this situation here. Number one, don't hold your breath waiting to get money back from these people.
Yeah,
that isn't going to happen. But the other thing is that one of the counselors who who was complaining about her, asking the question, and God, I can't remember the name of it. The guy with the beard, Dan
DeYoung. We're going to see him saying that in a minute.
Okay. Well, Dan DeYoung on the radio station said, well, I wanted to answer a question, but she didn't give any contact information or anything. You just saw just there. She said my email address and, phone number and all that stuff is right here on this paper.
So does that make Dan DeYoung a truth teller or a liar?
You know what? I think that he obviously didn't reference what it was. I mean, he finally got around because he was getting so much criticism from other people. He thought, well, maybe I'll go back and address that situation. And he thought of the question. He thought of Sandy Casanelli. He obviously didn't listen to her saying, yes, my contact information is on this piece of paper. They obviously didn't reference, because she probably wrote the question out or whatever and handed it to somebody there, and I'm assuming that that was available to those guys if they cared to go pick it up, and apparently they didn't.
Isn't it lucky we had it on tape? That's one of the reasons we tape these things.
Yes.
Okay, they tape it also, but good luck getting your hands on that. David Reeves has made it nearly impossible to get a good copy of it. You'll see some of their, and the syncs and the sound is all wrong. But anyway, here's the point. Like, if somebody, oh, well, she's concerned about, punctuation or some other kind of thing. You know what? If you spent $350, you might be a little upset that is crowded. 14 arguments are crowded onto one piece of paper.
And I think you would want your I's and T's done properly in there. And then, but one of the things that they can do, because I believe that you have to write or type out what it is that you want and submit it to them on paper. If they would allow you to submit that stuff electronically, they couldn't screw up your punctuation because it's there.
That's the theory. And we had no idea. Now, I didn't put in money on this. I don't have that. This is our contribution, Mike's and mine. Now, one of the things that you hope that you can do is influence your community. Okay, there are going to be some people who are going to oppose this because they oppose everything. That's not Mike and me. No, it's not. And there's going to be some people who they oppose this because it's screwing up their own business. Well, that is partially Mike. Okay, but there's other people who say, I don't like this and I care about my community and you guys are headed down the wrong track and we're trying to hold the city and the county accountable. Well, when you're accountable, then you say, why did it cost this much money? That's literally accountable.
Yeah. Yeah, also, I just want to interject because it makes it seem as though somehow if you have a business interest that you're trying to protect, that somehow is an illegitimate reason for objecting to what they're doing. It's completely legitimate. There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, listen, money makes the world go round, whether you like it or not. That's the truth. And you know what? Just an example today, I was talking to my son on the phone and we're discussing, how much money you're making and how you feel better when you're financially secure than you do when you're, scraping pennies every week, So these are two different things. And it's understandable that people would be upset if you were threatening their livelihood. For crying out loud. That's completely legitimate.
Well, that's why we've shown hours of people talking about what they thought about this, testifying to these guys who are not listening to them, and then the responses from the city council that are blaming the citizens. And they just obviously they don't understand, according to one counselor. Obviously, they're not in favor of law enforcement, according to the mayor. Obviously, they're not interested in. They have no. I got that backwards. The mayor said that they had no good reasons, and Dan DeYoung said that they're not interested in law enforcement. They're not hearing us, and so no wonder he can't hear her. Again, I would point out, well, you know, that's in the past. We're holding them accountable. Where was the answer to this? Now, a little sneak preview of this. She never did get a clear answer from anybody, not from anybody, and she wants to know, wouldn't you? What happened to my $350? Why does it cost so much to get something? You know, that's not right. What? Why? And in comparison, you could say, well, it's $350 for a stamp where the airplane is upside down. It must be a lot more than that. Okay, yeah. I can understand that. Just the size of it's not the important thing. The important thing is previous elections, you got half a page. Only half a page, but $350. This, you get this tight. Why? Why? Who made this decision? She wants to know who made the decision, and nobody wants to tell her.
Well, that actually did get answered. Dan DeYoung did get around to saying that was that decision. He passed the buck and said that decision was made in the recorder's office.
He told Sandy Casanelli to ask the county clerk.
Right.
He didn't have any answers. He's acting here like he has answers, but he doesn't.
Yeah, but and I guess that you know, he wasn't. You know, he was passing the buck. He's saying, I'm not going to answer that. It wasn't us, is basically what he's saying. And
well, we can all understand why she'd come to the city council. It was their proposal.
Of course. It was right. Exactly.
Their fondest wish in life. Right. They were the ones that are risking all of their political careers on this. And so if it turns out being this thing, you know, let's see, the opposition was so small, in some cases you might not be able to read it, depending on your eyesight. Maybe you don't need glasses the same way that I don't need glasses, right? And so she wanted to know, why am I spending so much money? She came to the right people to ask them. You would think they would have some kind of answers. Anybody think for a moment that Jay Meredith, that Roy Lindsay, that the city manager, that these people, the mayor, would have no idea what was going to happen on sending out this ballot? No idea at all? Why, we proposed it now. We have no idea what's going to happen. I don't believe that.
Okay, but but you know what? I think it's a stretch to go all off on a conspiracy here, because it is the recorder's office. It's their job to handle elections. Right.
No, I'm not saying conspiracy.
And the voters' pamphlet, no doubt, would be compiled by the recorder's office. And, you know, now, so basically what we're saying here is that the mayor or the councilors went over there and said, you make sure and make that real small print on one piece of paper now.
No, I never say that. What I say is, if there's a question between conspiracy and lunkheads, I think they don't care.
Well, I think we've discovered the one thing that government is willing to scrimp on.
Yes, public input. Right. Okay, so she didn't get an answer. She never did get an answer on this first. So she comes back 2 weeks later. She wants to know why it costs so much. What happened to that money? Why did this one cost so much money? What happened to the money? Follow the money. You're all involved in that. Okay. We've enlisted you in the core of people who are going to follow the money. So she comes back 2 weeks later and says, I didn't get an answer from anybody about anything. So I'm going to ask it again. I think she's legit to follow the money. Go ahead, let her ask it again.
Thank you. I have another blue sheet here from Sandy Casanelli.
Sandy Casanelli, Merlin, Oregon. To follow up on Judy's thought, maybe the council could send a message to the governor and ask that she not allow the Syrian immigrants to come to Oregon either, because they'll probably end up here.
Okay, now why did I put this in? I put this in because the mayor has said, and he's got assent from the other, well, that Dale Matthews gets up here and he mentions things we can't do anything about. Mm-hmm. I do. Just me, all by myself. I'm the only one who does it.
Yeah, right. And listen, I personally think that that's a legitimate concern. And not only that, that is something that they can do something about. They can write a letter if they want to, that they may not want to because they're feeling all politically correct. And like, you know, we have to import those people and be nice to them and all this kind of stuff instead of looking out for national security and actually finding some way of vetting those people before they start importing them in mass. But that's, you know, I'm getting off the track here.
Well, I didn't want to get off the track either, but the new rules will be you have to write down what you're going to talk about and stick to it. So can you imagine what would happen if you write down Syrian refugees?
and right, you write down Syrian refugees, and then you get up there and you say, well, I like what Judy said. Stick to what you said you were going to talk about.
Yeah.
You're out of there.
That's right.
Something like that. That's
exactly right.
Yeah, this is what we can expect because they're tightening up the reins, and there's a reason for that.
And he said what the reason was. The mayor said, you know, we're giving you a preview. He said, we're coming up in election season. So
right.
At first you might think, oh, well, they're afraid people are going to get up and say they're running for office. No, they're afraid people are going to get up and criticize them, and then they won't get reelected.
Right. It's odd, though, you know, listen, if it weren't for this program putting this stuff out there, very few people would know because, you know, maybe they think they're on TV and really most of Grants Pass is watching what they're doing all the time.
No,
they're not at all.
They're not.
They're not at all. So, you know, it's like what I mentioned about Cheryl and Keith, how they should do. You know what? If you're trying to keep this under the radar and you don't want to make a big deal about it, keep your mouth shut. Don't bother, you know, getting out there and making a big stink about this, because then we're going to spend a week of programming telling people about this and showing them videos of you saying the offending thing. So,
okay,
but you know what?
That's
not going to matter to them. They'll keep going.
Well, explanation again of why we're showing something from November 4th, and this is small. Now, you want us to keep track of the money, right? You do want us to hold them accountable, right? So we need to see what a normal citizen would say. If you spent $350, I know I'm repeating myself, you would maybe want to know, and maybe you wouldn't want to get up and fight City Hall, but Sandy does, and she wants to know what happened to that money. And we're going to let her say it one more time, and then we're going to listen to what their answers are. And brother, wait till you hear what their answers are. Go ahead, Mike.
Anyways, last time the council meeting met on November 4th, I made a simple request and submitted my email and mailing address for the record to make it convenient for your response. However, I didn't get any. As per House rules, no one answered my question at that meeting, but subsequently no council member, nor the mayor, nor the manager, nor the assistant manager bothered to reply. It makes me wonder if ignoring requests is standard operating procedure for your treatment of citizens. So tonight I will repeat my request in the hopes that someone in city government will take the time to answer or delegate someone else to answer a rather simple question. Who was it who determined that the recent November 3rd special election voters pamphlet was printed on one page, both sides? 22 people turned in arguments for that election. It cost them $350 each, which means that $7,700 was collected for a voter's pamphlet. Normally the pamphlets are 7.5 by 11-inch booklets. We get a half a page. But this time, our almost $8,000 brought us one single piece of paper, 22 1/4 by 16 inches, printed on both sides. with 14 arguments on one side. The result was that the printing was so small it was almost unreadable. I don't know if others had mistakes in their submissions, but my argument had a major punctuation error as well. This was hardly a prudent value given to us for the money that was collected from the city. Again, my question today is, who made the decision to have the voters pamphlet printed on one page? Was it the council, the mayor, the city manager, the assistant manager, the clerk Art Harvey, or a combination of any one of these people? I left with the clerk a second request for the record this evening with my email and mailing address for your response. Thank you.
Okay, in that one there, she reiterated a couple of times that she put her email address and contact information in there. And Dan DeYoung, after this particular meeting, even after this one, went on the radio station and said, well, I didn't know how to contact her. I didn't have any contact information for her.
So I'm going to repeat something then. Does that make Dan DeYoung a truth teller or a liar?
Or a lunkhead?
Okay.
He may well be a lunkhead. And listen, I got to tell you, I don't disagree with everything that Dan DeYoung says. I remember back when they were talking about Winco and Red Robin coming to town.
Yes. Yeah. I liked him. I liked what he was saying.
Right. And he said, you know what? We decided the best thing for us to do is incentivize them to come here and get out of the way and let it happen. And I thought, yeah, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. This is the guy. But you know what? You have to call them on this sort of stuff. Listen, you know what? You're under a different level of scrutiny when you're a public official, and
don't lie to us. Don't lie to us.
Right. And you're even under a higher level of scrutiny now that Dale goes to every single meeting and tapes all of these things. So, why don't you just be mindful of what you say and make sure that it lines up with actual facts and not just with the groupthink that exists in the room when you're saying it? Because when you go over to KJO, you get Marty Sether, and that guy is in the tank. And so you guys are going to get all up on a frenzy about how you all hate the same people. And so you're going to say the same bad things about him. Well, guess what? Other people are listening to you. Come on.
Yes. I think that she was asking a legitimate question. She wants to know what happened to her money. She wants to know what happened to everybody's money. Who made this decision? Simple answer. You could simply say, we don't know. As a matter of fact, those 3 words could be said by the city council right while she's standing there.
Right.
Mayor Fowler gives me feedback all the time, even though it's against their rules. Say, well, maybe we'll just have to check that out, or that may not be the truth. Hey, if he could say that may not be the truth, they could say to her, we don't know. Easy.
And had they not ever had a conversation about that amongst 2 counselors about what, who did make that decision? No, they never did. And you know why? Because they don't care about what Sandy Casanelli had to say. They don't care. It's the mumblings of some person's not even a city resident. Right. They don't care what she said. This is again, it's a great example of what these people think of you. They think so little of you. Dan DeYoung didn't even listen to what she said, because she said over and over and over again, my phone number's in here, my email address is in here, la 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 la, And they didn't pay enough attention to her. He didn't care about it. The only reason why he began caring about it, because I bet you he caught one of the episodes of our program where he was being criticized. And so he finally got around to answering that question.
2 weeks later. And on the radio, they referred to Sandy and us and me as bomb throwers.
Yes, right. Exactly.
Really? We'd like to know how you spent the money. That's throwing a bomb. It is? Yes, because it's not saying what a wonderful job we're doing. Once you do a wonderful job, we'll say something about it.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole thing was bad from the get-go. Now watch this. Okay, it's certainly possible that once you don't answer it, and then 2 weeks later somebody has to ask again and point out again that they've given you their contact information, maybe the right thing to do is say, look, I'm sorry. Or they might not even say, I'm sorry. They could say, we've got that information. We won't let it slip. No, listen to this. And we're going to play back 3 different responses from Dan DeYoung, all in the same paragraph, basically, where you can hear these little digs. It's not enough just to answer because she didn't screw up. She hasn't done anything wrong. But he's got to dig at her because they have no respect at all for any citizens. Listen to this. Catch the dig.
Dan?
Yes, and in response to Sandy Castanelli's request, if somebody can make sure that because I will respond to her. There's a couple of people that get up and they talk at the microphone. They know darn well that they can sit around, wait till after the meeting. And tonight was going to be a short meeting. Get their answer immediately, but as soon as they're done on the mic, they walk out.
Really? Now, is that the respectful attitude you would hope for from an elected city councilor?
Well, they don't want to wait the 2 or 3 hours. I mean, that guy's saying, why didn't you wait 2 or 3 hours? Because many times these meetings that the city has are ungodly length. And they
want to be a city councilor.
Yeah. And they tell them, why didn't you wait, 3 hours for me to say, I don't know. Well, I don't know. Why didn't you just say, Sandy, hey, thanks for that. We talked about this. I don't know. We don't know why. Please go talk to the recorder's office. That would have been the smart thing to do. That would have been the respectful thing to do. But no, you should have waited for 3 hours to find out we didn't know.
What would Mike have done? What would I have done? You know what we'd done. We would have gotten up out of our lofty chairs and run around before she could leave the room and said, Sandy, I'm so sorry. We really should have responded 2 weeks ago. You did ask the day after the election. We don't know. Sorry. I'm sorry. We don't know. But that's not what happened. Instead, he's saying she should have waited. You see, it's her fault.
But they didn't even have to get up and run out of their chair. They could have just walked over afterwards, found the stuff that she gave them with her contact information on it, and simply responded to it. I'm assuming that's what the procedure is. That's why she took the thing and walked it over to wherever she took it to and set it down there. Is that not the case?
She did finally get an email from Dan DeYoung. She finally got one, okay, after 2 weeks of waiting. And it was okay worded. It was neutral, but there was no apologies or anything in there. Okay, so you're such a lofty individual, you can't apologize. But look, they've put this rule on themselves. This isn't state law. They don't want to respond to people. And so their rule is we can't, but they do. They do all the time. We've caught it on tape, not just short responses, but long, blathery responses as the person standing there. So this rule is BS. It's just simply not true. They don't want to answer because they don't want to answer. That's all. They don't have to do it this way. And when a person comes back the second time, I believe there's a certain obligation to say, wait. I know we have this rule, but this is getting ridiculous.
That's right.
Really?
Let's just stop this right now. And here, let's give you the answer that you came for.
What's more important, this rule that we made up or answering your question right here in front of everybody so they can hear that there's an answer?
Right. Yeah.
All right. Let's listen to the next little dig. Oh, this is nice. Go ahead, Dan.
And so we're not allowed to respond to them when they talk at the mic, just so you know, we'd love to just answer her right now, but we're not allowed to. So we have to wait till later, but I'll put myself down to give her a call. I want to know where the money goes to. She mentioned $7,700 like it came to the city council, and it's up here underneath the thing. It's not.
Oh, is that necessary? Really? Just
what?
It's underneath the thing here, which is not like it's sitting in his lap.
And if that actually is a rule, number one, what sort of sanction do you suppose the counselor would receive if he said, well, here, hang on just a second, Sandy Castanelli, we know the answer to that, and the answer is we don't know. Do you suppose that he would be censured oh no, we can't do that. You suppose that they would somehow look down upon that person? No, this is if that is a rule, it's one of the stupidest rules ever. It's to keep people from communicating back and forth. They think if people have a conversation, that's going to make the meeting go on for hours.
Oh, well, too late. Too late. They do it all by themselves for hours and hours, and it's the longest meeting anywhere in this whole area of the state. These meetings are impossibly long. Sometimes they're short, but most of the time they're really long. Look, and they could even the mayor could say, no, wait, no, sorry, Sandy. No, here's the answer. We don't know. 3 words. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all this is. Or go around the corner and say something to her, or wave her down, or whatever, or send someone over to, if you don't want to be touching this unwashed public, you could send somebody over there. Hey, go and talk to her, because they can talk to each other. Go and talk to her. Us city councilors can't do it, but you're the clerk.
Right.
You're supposed to be responsive to us. Would you please go talk to her, catch her? Hey, tell the police guys. Hey, police guys that are there for whatever reason. Hey, police guys, hold on to her for a second. Cuff her if you have to. Hey, go give her answer. Please, you know the answer. Go give her her answer. But don't be. Look, I wanted especially for you to see this. She's speaking as if we've got the money up here underneath somewhere. There's no need for that. You don't need to be exaggerating. She's not saying that you're holding on to it and that you've all got part of that money in your lap. That is really disrespectful. She's asking a normal, everyday question of the people who should know. They should know.
That's right. That's right.
The fact that they don't know is not good.
Yeah. No, it isn't. And you know, clearly, well, I wonder if she ever got the answer to the question. I mean, did she then go to the recorder's office and find out?
Here's the part that's next. Wait till you hear what Dan DeYoung says, followed by, got to say it in the right way, David Reeves. Okay. Listen to this. Listen to this. They're back to back.
Well, I don't know where that money went to and who did publish that. I think that goes through Art Harvey over next door at the county courthouse, so it really doesn't have anything to do with us, but we are asked to respond. So I will take that on and do that so that we don't ignore her. I just figured that she would have gotten it on the last go around, that it went over next door at the courthouse. Makes those, she's talking about the voters pamphlet. She was questioning that it wasn't a regular booklet. It was just one sheet on both sides, and she'd rather have all of her stuff in big print.
Hey,
so we can all read it.
Yeah, see
that's not necessary.
Yeah, it isn't necessary, and it's but you know, file it under what you need to know about the person who talks to about people in that way.
She'd rather have all of her stuff in big print. Really, Dan?
Well, listen,
said nothing wrong.
It may seem like, you know, we're nitpicking this guy or whatever, but the bottom line is that, you know, that sort of saying stuff like that betrays, you know, their actual thinking on it and how they feel toward the citizens. And you know what? I don't want a city councilor, and it's not my choice to make because I live in the county. But I don't want a city councilor. I don't want a county commissioner that thinks poorly of the people, that looks down on them in any way.
Remember when I asked a question about where the money was going, and the health director, Diane Hoover said, "I pity you for asking such a question." And Keith Eck repeated it. "I pity you too for asking a question about where the money's going. And why is it being charged so much? Why are you overcharging us? Are you still overcharging us? I pity you for even asking that question." Really? Let's get rid of all these guys, shall we? But first, we've got to listen. Now, I'm going to preface this. This is the biggest lie of that meeting. It's completely, absolutely, totally wrong. And who would you expect? Nope, not Roy Lindsay. Just wait. Here's David Reeves.
We'll make sure that she's notified that she needs to complain to Josephine County rather than to us. So if you get that for me, I'd be glad to pass that along.
Dave?
Just a comment, Dan. Yes, I, in fact, had mentioned to Sandy Castanelli, she's at the wrong meeting. That is definitely a county issue.
Nope, nope, no. As the mayor says, no, he didn't.
Yeah. The interesting thing is the date on this is November 18th. what was the date of the radio show? Wasn't that early December?
I think so.
Yeah. So we're talking, listen, a month went by and he still obviously had not communicated with Sandy Casanelli at that point and was saying what he was saying to her over the radio.
Yeah. And I don't want to gloss over this David Reeves thing. David Reeves just told you that he had informed Sandy Casanelli that she was at the wrong meeting. Now, unless he thinks he's going to do it by mental telepathy, this guy didn't do that. We've checked with Sandy. He never said that to her. He never informed her about anything. Did you see how he was laughing about it?
Yeah.
This guy is. And this is what happened to Sandy on the radio when Jim Riddle was telling people that, oh, well, that's Sandy Casanelli. Remember, we told you the story. There he was with Carl Wilson. Yeah, boy, we've offered to give her this information. She just doesn't want it. You mean to tell me, says our current state representative, Carl Wilson, that you tried to give her the information and she refused to accept it? That's right. She's asking this question about how the money was spent. Hello. And I tried to tell her how the money was spent and she just refused. She wouldn't even take the information. Well, I have it on my desk and I could give it. Well, that's just awful that she would waste our time on this important radio station. And she would say such the way, that's just, and they were laughing about it. So then Jim Riddle calls up Sandy and leaves a voicemail message. What an idiot. I'm sorry, I don't usually say that, but oh my gosh. He leaves her a voicemail message saying, well, you and I both know I don't have any information on my desk. Oh, so I called back Carl Wilson. I said, we've got him saying this. So I said, well, he used your show to just lie to everybody. Yeah, I'm not interested. Would you like to at least listen to the tape? Should you at least give her some time to say, hey, that wasn't true? I'm not going to do that. There's Carl Wilson. So David Reeves just told all of you and the city councilors, well, I told her, but obviously she's just not listening. That's a paraphrase. I told her about this, that she was at the wrong meeting. No, he didn't. David Reeves is a liar. Okay, he doesn't speak correctly all the time. How about that? This is wrong.
Or he misspoke. That's what they're so fond of saying. He misspoke or something. They, liar. People don't like to say that.
I don't like this kind of thing. I don't like it. And they say, basically, we don't know how to answer your question. Or you've just made a statement that we don't like. Or we don't want to be accountable. I don't like that kind of thing. I don't think that's right. Now, we're going to play one more for you this evening, and then we're going to continue with some of this, but they're going to go off into a completely new direction, okay? But I just want to play just Darren Fowler's answer on December 2nd, about what they're going to do about this kind of thing from now on. And look who he's picked to do some of the drafting of these new rules. Go ahead, Mike. Last clip.
I wanted to let you know that I'm working on with Dave Reeves something to say during public comment. I'd like to have something that I read that was shorter than what's on here that says kind of what I've been saying, but kind of that it is a courtesy that we have public comment, and I may also include that I may not open it up for public comment at any meeting. I may choose to, depending upon time constraints or subject matter. So I'm working on that. I'd like to try and curb this before our election year.
Okay. Now, okay. Most important thing first. He wants to curb this kind of thing before election year.
Kick him to the curb.
Before election year, before we start talking about him, you'll have to write down your questions ahead of time. Can you imagine what would happen if you wrote down, I want to criticize the mayor?
Yeah, right.
He said he wants to do it for time constraints. They go 2 or 3 hours, so they don't have very much time, Mike. Right. And he'd also like to do it for content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
what this means is, if you're going to say no to everybody, that's state law, you can. But you can't say yes to some and no to others, or yes to some and no to others based on content. That's not okay.
Okay, well, we'll see, how this comes down, because they're going to come out with the new rules here after the first of the year, right?
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing too, because I go to all these meetings. I didn't go to this last one. They never said on the announcement where it says what the issues are, who gets to say what and et cetera, or what the agenda items were. They didn't put anything on there about there will be no public comment at this meeting. So there were people that showed up at that meeting thinking, of course, they're going to get comment. They never told anybody. It's kind of like this thing that happened out at the airport recently, where there were people who were kind of upset and wanted to hear for themselves if the helicopter thing was going to be too loud. And we were promised by Larry Graves, the airport's manager, that he would keep us informed. And I got a letter, an email. Most of the news media did. All of them did, saying, we're going to let you know. It'll either be on Tuesday or Wednesday. Guess what they forgot to do?
Tell us.
Yes.
And they did it.
Yeah.
They did the test thing, and I saw a brief clip of it, and for the life of me, I can't find it again. But they did do some heavy load testing out there the other day.
The thing is, just tell us what's happening. That's all. Don't cut off public comments because you think you aren't going to get reelected. The example I gave you, I think it was last night, was Dave Toller. He started a lot of this stuff. This is why some people in Cave Junction hate me. After all these years, you said something negative about Dave Toller. Because we kept catching him doing things. Well, I don't like that. Well, then you ought to pick a new person to worship, right? And so there was this example. You're probably tired of hearing about it. Sandy Casanelli was in her office. She's still the head county commissioner, as you know, because all you have to do is watch KTVL or KOBI or one of these, and there she is running the meeting. No, she's not. Okay, so anyway, she was behind a closed door talking to a constituent, and Dave didn't see me in the room because I was still packing up, and he goes over and he puts his head up against the door and is listening through the door. Then he suddenly sees me, and he trots out of the room. He didn't jump out of a window. He did trot out of the room, right? And so at the next weekly business session, I said, I have some tape I'd kind of like to show here, because back in those days, citizens were actually allowed to show something or present something or put a picture up on what they called the Elmo or anything to communicate what the bosses have to say. And Dwight Ellis at the time said, I'm not going to allow you to play that back. And I said, now, why would that be? He said, well, we've got an election coming up and it could affect the election. And Dave Toller was running. Yeah, you think it might affect the election? It did. And guess who we got? Simon Hare. So have you heard enough for this evening? We started saying that we weren't going to talk about Simon Hare, and then I just couldn't stop Mike. Mike, shut up about Simon Hare.